Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us this afternoon or maybe late morning, depending on where you're at. Today, we're going to be talking about the iColor 800W. We also have a special guest with us. We have Joe Dovey from Uninet, who is the COO of Uninet and curator of all things iColor. So today, we're just going to go and give you an overview of the printer, where it fits in its space as far as a white toner heat transfer printer. What its capabilities are. We've got samples to show you. We're going to do a live demo. We also need your questions. So as you're there, make sure you're asking questions using the question tab within the GoToWebinar. Also, just keep in mind, sometimes things happen when you start these webinars. You can't hear audio, can't see video. Try just closing it out, coming back in. A lot of times that itself will fix it. And again, if you're still having technical difficulties, we always make these available at the end for you to watch back as a recording. George, you have something too?
Yep, just a friendly reminder too, we're going to be using some multiple screens today. And if you're already on, you may see Joe and Steve. We'll probably be doing a couple close-ups. We've got some PowerPoints, lots going on. If you're on a mobile device, please feel free to swipe up or down. That will get you between the cameras. If you're on a PC or a Mac or a computer, you should be able to see all the cameras at one time.
Yeah, absolutely. Perfect. Well, let's go ahead and get started. One of the things, if you're here today, you're interested in toner heat transfer, you're out looking at your options as far as what the differences are between the iColor 560, the iColor 650, and then the iColor 800. The 800 is really the workhorse of the line as far as output capabilities, toner size, transfer output size. So it gives you a lot of flexibility. We're also going to talk about where it fits in the marketplace against competition. It has a lot of great benefits when you sit and look at the other products on the marketplace as far as white toner heat transfer and how it sits in there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn it over to Joe. He's just going to give us kind of an overview. We're going to ask some questions, show some samples, all that good stuff. So let's go ahead. Joe, it's all yours.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. So today we're going to talk about the 800W, as Steve said. I just want to cover some of the differences to some other printers that you might have seen out in the marketplace. It's most closely compared against the Oki 9541. That's also a large format machine up to 13 by 19. So this is the closest solution. But our advantages here is we just have a lower price tag out of the gate. We have very, very high yield toner cartridges, so you don't have to change these quite as often as other printers, which is going to give you a really low cost per page. So if you want the lowest cost per page on any toner transfer system, this would be the solution. Very high yield toner cartridges, high yield drums. You have a very wide color gamut, so you could produce all the colors better than any other printer out there. It comes in a desktop model and a freestanding model. It's got a big 10-inch screen where you could run videos on it. It's really quite advanced, actually. When you look at the competition out there, this is a quantum leap, I think, forward in technology.
Absolutely. And one of the things that maybe you're out there now, maybe you're doing garment decoration in some other capacity, maybe you're dabbling in a little bit of sublimation, maybe you're doing some vinyl, or you're considering white toner transfer versus DTG. There's a lot of great benefits of the iColor product line, and especially with the 800 being that its size, those things that Joe just mentioned, consumable size, lower printing costs, output size on transfer. But one of the other things when you're looking at this compared to other technologies is its low maintenance. You're not going to have to do head cleanings and nozzle checks like you are with the other technology. You don't have to worry about a 6-month shelf life on your ink and things like that. So it has a lot of advantages. One, you could do any type of fabrics, lights, darks, cottons, blends, polys, you name it. I think 90% of the reason folks buy these white toner heat transfer printers is for garment decoration, but don't forget about the other capabilities with the hard surface and the specialty papers. There's a lot you can do with that, and I have samples down here too. So not only is it going to handle all your garment needs, it can also do those other specialty things to make yourself more, what I like to call, sticky to your customers. So they might come to you for 20 or 30 shirts, but then maybe they also want something on a dark color mug that you're not able to produce with sublimation. I get asked all the time, where's the best place to start with technologies? And a lot of times, it's not a one technology fits all, because that's not the case. There's going to be times where you're going to want to sublimate things. There are big times where you might want to use some type of vinyl, or there's going to be times where you might find that this covers most of your needs. But there's different opportunities there. There's not necessarily a one size fits all. That's where you want to talk with us and figure out what you're trying to do, what the best method to get there is, and just kind of go from there and evaluating the options. But a rule of thumb with this, it gives you a very broad scope here, but if it can fit in a heat press and take heat, most likely you can put a transfer on it. Now, there's going to be a lot of testing involved to make sure that product works well and you like it, things like that. There's a learning curve with this, so take that into account when you're doing that, but that's one thing we really help focus with. Joe, talk to him just real quick before we dive into some more about some of the other resources you have available, social media and the groups, as far as user support and peer support.
Yeah. Yep, no, I mean, support is number one for iColor. So we have a few different levels of support options. First of all, every printer now ships with a great book that actually walks you through all about white toner. It's called the Beginner's Notebook. You can actually keep notes in here as you determine what works for you and what doesn't, but also the beginning of the book is all filled with tons of tips. This is a great solution that's now included with every printer. Beyond that, we have the White Toner Masterclass training series. That's 7 hours of in-depth training. And there's packages that you can include with that support. And then, of course, if that's not enough, it's in the middle of the night and you need some help and, we're not open and Steve's not there to answer the phone. You're welcome to join us on Facebook. We have a great Facebook support group called the White Toner Transfer Support Group. That's the largest one in the world, where we're doing support for all printers.
And I like that, because you've put other customers in there and everybody can learn from each other, and you can really see what it's like as you're evaluating this to get started. So it's a huge benefit. A lot of the resources, we also bundle our printers for you too. We'll discuss that towards the end. And we've put everything you need to get started with these printers, so you can start producing transfers for garments, so you can start producing transfers for hard surface items. So a lot we're going to cover. Joe, I know you got some more slides. Go ahead and you can dive back into some of that stuff. And again, folks, as you have questions, make sure you ask us and we'll answer them to the best of our ability.
Yeah, we're going to get Joe the presenter here in a second.
Sure.
Maybe there. Okay.
There you go. It should be yours now.
Yep, let me just get my screen up there. All right, you guys can see that?
Yep.
Yes, we can.
Okay, so this slide specifically talks about its closest competitor in the marketplace, the 9541. That's the Oki model. Some of you may know that model. It's a nice, big, beautiful machine. Nothing at all wrong with it, actually. It's a great printer. But we think we built a printer that does pretty much the same thing for a lower price tag. It's like 35% less expensive than that model. And beyond that price tag, the big benefit here is the low cost of toner, like I mentioned before. So just to give you an example, these toner cartridges are 35,000 pages on the color. That's an enormous amount of toner in a toner cartridge. And the white toner cartridge is 25,000. So that's compared to the Oki that gives you 24,000 on the color and only 10,000 on the white. So when you're doing your cost per page analysis and look at how much the toner costs, consider that these cartridges are quite a bit more in capacity. Okay, so we have 40% overall lower printing costs, and the white toner alone is 60% less because we have that big 25,000 page white cartridge. So it's at 24 cents cost per page compared to 58 cents. So good amount cheaper. Your ProRip software is included with every printer. It's not another purchase that you need to add. And for the 9541, that's a $1,000 option to get the RIP software, but the RIP software on your 800W is in the box. That's all you need to print. There's nothing else that you need to purchase. The drums are also higher yield, not something people think about typically, the drums, because you don't change them that often, but these drums go 60,000 pages versus the Oki's 40,000. So that's additional savings. The color gamut, we can actually produce more colors than comparable printers on this machine because it uses a special toner formulation. This is a developer-based system. It's not a traditional polystyrene crushed system. This product actually uses developer, like the old copiers back in the days. We could produce 20% more colors. So that means your colors are going to be a little closer to what you want them to be when you print them. We have a 10-inch color touchscreen on the front of the machine. You can run videos on that, support videos. It's really intuitive and nice and just makes the machine look quite modern. There's a pro model, there's a base model, so you can get one that sits on a desk if you have the room for it and a desk that'll hold it because it's kind of big and heavy, or you can get a model that rolls around on a cart. Come with a 2-year warranty, these machines. Let me bring up another slide. And you know, when talking about the 9541, the one thing that stands out on that machine is that's actually a 5-station printer, which is nice. There's nothing bad about having a 5-station machine. It actually has the black toner in there. But from market research and doing this for so long, I can tell you that the black toner is not one that you typically use on transfer printing because you're almost exclusively printing on black shirts. You're actually removing the color black almost all the time. And in fact, the blacks on this machine are outstanding. Beautiful, beautiful, dark jet blacks that you can achieve with the iColor 800 using the cyan, magenta, and yellow toner. It's much darker than even our other printers. This is the blackest black you can get, I think, on a transfer printer. And you can achieve that with the CMY. So the black is not needed in this case. It's got the wide color gamut, like I said, so you got dark blacks, beautifully rich colors with a wide color gamut, and the lowest toner cost. So that's why I think it's a compelling offering versus the 9541. These are the two options you see up on the screen: $89.99 on the desktop version, $99.99 for the Pro version. The difference with the Pro version is we include that rolling storage cart. The Smart Cut software is also included, and you get that 2-year warranty instead of a 1-year warranty. So it's a nice value for that $1,000.
And I'll add to that real quick, just before we move on. All the ones that we have set up on our website for bundles are all the Pro versions. We have found that most times, 9 times out of 10, but at the stand, you get the 2-year warranty, your best value is going to be in that Pro version. So it works really well that way. You know, it's again, we have everything bundled for you, ready to go. Sorry,
Great.
Joe.
Nope, that's it. That's all I had on the slides. We can carry on.
Yeah, perfect. So let's dive in and talk a little bit about some of the capability with the iColor 800 as far as papers. And Joe, you can dive into this too if you want with me. Why don't you talk about, just give us an overview of how many different papers you have available. I think a lot of times folks forget about some of those other papers that you have. And one of the huge benefits that I love with the iColor Pro RIP is all the paper profiles are built in with that. Why don't you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's definitely an advantage because the RIP software is purposely built for these printers and there's no guesswork. You might have, if you're in some of these groups online, undoubtedly you're going to see some of the negativity from new users starting up. And what I could tell you is we keep that to a minimum with the ProRip software because there's just preset selections. You pick your paper. So in this case, if you pick, let's say, iColor Premium Media, once you choose it, all the other settings fill in for you: the amount of white opacity, what tray you should use, the resolution, the speed, the diffuser temperature, all that is sort of preset. If you pick from the preset choices of papers, it's all set for you and you really can't make a mistake there. And that's not to say you can't use other papers, you certainly can, but you'd have to set up some of those settings for yourself and make a print mode for it. But we try to make it pretty easy.
Right. And so everything's right there. We also carry all the iColor papers right on jpplus.com, so you can get all those papers. Again, going back to the bundles, what we do is we start you out with a couple different options. And one, we have an economy garment bundle that comes with a box of paper for you to get started with. It comes with the silicone finishing sheets and a few other items. Then we go up to the complete garment package where we're including some additional samples. We're including the iColor artwork book, how to set up your artwork for white toner transfer. Joe, do you want to touch on that real quick? Just some of the benefits that'll get to a new user.
Yeah, so the book called, I think it's entitled Artwork for White Toner Transfers. It's written by Dane Clement. It's a great book and it walks you through how to set up your artwork. So if you're brand new, you may want to purchase your artwork from Etsy, or we have artwork collections and there's lots of sources online. But when you're ready to dive into making your own artwork in Illustrator or Corel or Photoshop, this book will teach you how to set up your artwork for white toner transfer, because it's not as simple as it might look out of the gate. What works for sublimation may not work correctly for white toner. You give it negative space. And this book teaches you how to do that. And that's a $100 value, that book, that's included.
And I think too, for new folks starting in, that's probably the biggest struggle with artwork. getting used to the right type of artwork. There's things that you're going to want to do on this and things you're not going to want to do, or you're going to have to, like Joe had said, cater to negative space and rasterize and things like that. And we'll talk about Smart Cut too here in a few, and some of the capabilities with that too. They're also with those iColor, the artwork book, the instruction book, is the volume of artworks too. So if you're not someone who is, very astute at design or struggle with that, we have those artwork volumes that you can purchase separately that will give you good artwork to base off of, that is ready for white toner heat transfer, that then you can bring into your design software. We actually did a video with Grace. Everybody's probably familiar with Grace, unless you're new to one of our webinars. Grace is one of our field marketing managers, and we did a webinar where we took artwork from the artwork book and we rasterized it and talked about that. So those are really beneficial as you're learning this. So again, let's talk about, and I'll bring up some of this stuff, like what type of artwork you want to do. And Joe, feel free to add to anything I miss or just expand on. So I always tell customers, I'm going to come around the front here. When you're getting into white toner transfer, you're really going to want to cater to negative space. I have a pillowcase that we sell here on Johnson Plastics Plus. This is a sublimation pillowcase, but again, this is giving an example of a cross use here where we're using the 2-step standard garment paper on this. So hopefully everybody can see this. I always get a little backwards when I'm standing here. But this is an example. See all that negative space in there? So the blue is standing out where you could have color, and that really makes this stand up to wear, especially on a shirt. Now on a pillowcase it's going to be a little bit different, but on something especially that's going to get washed and worn quite a bit, that negative space, I really think this caters well to vector artwork. And then while we're on that, Joe, why don't you talk about Smart Cut, rasterizing, some of the features of Smart Cut with being able to selectively rasterize and things like that.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because some people, they question, why would I want Smart Cut with the iColor 800W? It prints these massive prints. I don't really want to print larger than that. Well, first of all, you might want to print larger than that, okay? In some cases you need to, but that's actually only one of the benefits of Smart Cut, which initially was created to really for the A4 size or letter size printers to stitch together 2 pages together so that there's no seam. Now on the iColor 800W, because you could print such huge transfer sheets, it's unlikely you're going to need to do that. But Smart Cut does have some other features that you may not know about, and it's very handy on the iColor 800. So one of them is what we call selective rasterization, where you can point to an area of the design and just click it and it will rasterize just that one element. That's something that in ProRip software, you sort of have to rasterize the whole thing or none of it. You'd have to be skilled in Photoshop or Corel to set up that rasterization in selective parts of your design normally. But with the Smart Cut selective rasterization tool, you just point, click, and it can do that one little area. So it's very helpful. And the other feature with Smart Cut is something called Real Preview. And that's a function that actually takes your artwork, puts it on the shirt background, and gives you a very accurate representation of what that will look like after you press the A to the B and marry it and all that. It takes into account the white adhesive and the white toner, and even the color brilliance lost when you press it. All that's taken into account and gives you a very accurate representation. So if you don't know about those 2 features with Smart Cut, they're really nice features.
While we're on that, before we get too far, one thing I want to forget before I forget, I think we got some questions. George?
No, we're good at the moment. We're going to have one here in a second.
Okay.
Just, seeing what they're asking. So.
Perfect. Before we go too far, one of the things I want to talk about, can you talk about some of the plugins, the Knock Me Out Black, Knock Me Out Color, Fluid Mask that come within the RIP, and how powerful and easy to use those are, how important they are into the process of getting that good output on your artwork?
Yeah, no, the plugins are critical for your success with the RIP. And if you're comparing the ProRip to other RIPs, that's one thing you need to keep in mind. There's a lot of plugins in there that will make your life easier. For example, GIMP. If you don't have Photoshop, GIMP is included. GIMP is a product that's available. It's a freeware type product, but it's integrated directly into the RIP. So you can take your file from ProRip, send it over to GIMP, do some photo editing, and send it right back without having to save the file and re-import it. So there's GIMP. There's Fluid Mask, which lets you remove backgrounds. So if someone gives you artwork that has a white background, just one button, it clicks it, removes it, sends it right back to ProRip. That's a plugin. There's a plugin that lets you remove the black colors called Knock Me Blackout. So of course, like I mentioned before, you almost never want to print dark colors because you're likely printing on a black shirt. You hit one button, all the blacks come out. Smart Cut is a plugin as well. So we talked about Smart Cut before, but what we didn't say is it's attached to ProRip. And that's a relatively new feature. So now you can send your job directly from ProRip over to Smart Cut, split it, do this real preview or the selective rasterization, send it right back with one button without saving that file. And there's other features as well. There's more plugins.
Yeah, the RIP software is feature packed of great tools, and Joe's not oversimplifying how easy it is to use these additional plugins. Literally, I can take artwork, bring it in, and within a click, knock out the black. Now, there's settings that you can adjust, like how much and how much opacity or transparency you have to it. So there's things you can adjust in there, but 9 times out of 10, I'm good enough with what it does on the first run. And it's easy to use. And the great thing is a lot of folks they'll look at this and get overwhelmed when you first starting into this. We'll help you through that. We teach you the basics, and you know, one of the things as far as support, when you purchase a printer, you're always going to get our team, our advanced support teams upfront help on this and ongoing too at no charge. It's not, okay, you only get this amount of hours and you have to buy more. For the life of your printer, from setup through just ongoing questions, we're going to help you with that. And of course, then from a hardware standpoint, then, you know, Uninet's always there to back us up too, but a lot of tools in there for you to use. George, questions now?
So the question we had, and I apologize because I was reading the question, I don't know if you touched on it, but we had a user who is using a Mac and wanted to know if there were any limitations with Mac software with this, or should they go and get a low-end laptop to drive the software, or what are your recommendations there?
Yeah, good question. Joe, you want to tackle that?
Yeah, I mean, natively, there is no Mac RIP software available, but you can certainly run it using something like Parallels, and there's others. There's lots of different emulation packages that you can use. It's very commonly done. But my suggestion actually is to get an inexpensive laptop, but certainly you could force it onto a Mac.
Yeah, and you know, 9 times out of 10, that's what I tell customers. I mean, you could still do your design in your Mac if you want, but then bring your files over to your PC that has the RIP. So that's going to be the best bet.
It's a good point. Keep your eye out on those Black Friday deals. Might be able to get a nice low-end laptop to run your printer.
There you go. Perfect. Any other questions right now, George?
No, we're good for the moment.
Okay.
Thanks.
So let's go back and let's talk some more about capability and substrate. One thing I want to touch on is the flexibility and the size of the transfer output you're able to do with this printer. I'm going to come around to the front. So again, like you can do 8.5 by 11, 8.5 by 14, and then 11 by 17. But one of the things that I really like is you're able to do this, again, going for the larger output size, 12.5 by 19, which in the RIP software we call what, Tabloid XL or is that right?
Cal Jumbo, I think it's called.
There you go. But just to give you an idea, you know, I'm wearing extra large shirt here to kind of give you an idea. This is the 12.5 by 19 size transfer. So when you're wanting to do a large design, or maybe you're just ganging up multiples on one of these, having this large output size is great. And we'll do a demo here shortly on that. But I've got this same artwork on a garment here. This is an XL t-shirt. You know, some folks say, oh, that's really big. Yeah, it is really big, but I see a lot more shirts done with large designs like this than I do shirts with small designs. Especially, you know, I wear an XL. You get into some of the 2XL, 3XL, 4XL and larger, your 8.5 by 11 design is going to get lost on a shirt of that size. So again, let me come in closer so you can look at this. Again, this artwork is taking into account where we're knocking out the black, okay? We're allowing the background of the shirt to stand through with the white that we printed to really help form up our astronaut there in the middle. So again, this is talking about catering to negative space, you know, no giant blocks of color for the hand. That's gonna make it a lot softer. So doing things like this, really large, full color design, all self-weeding. I wanna touch on that because I still get a lot of questions. You do not have to weed this. It's all self-weeding. So if you're doing vinyl today, there's designs you're turning away that you would not take because you have to weed that, where you can actually take those designs on now and print them and not have that headache. We have another question, George?
Yeah, it's interesting. You were talking about garments there. So for a typical heat transfer garment, how many washes are you going to get out of that? Or what's the kind of thought on that for you and Joe?
you know, one of the things too, it's going to depend on the paper. There's different papers for garment and that have different wash levels. Joe, you want to touch on some of that, even for the most basic level from the one step, which I always recommend. This is a Steve preference. I am always a two-step paper all the time for your garments. That's going to give you the best wash life, but I'll let Joe touch on some of the wash life with the iColor papers.
Yeah, just talking about, you know, the most common paper out there, popular, it's probably the two-step standard. And then the Select Ultra Bright is also very popular, but those will get between 30 and 50 wash cycles out of them when treated correctly. We don't suggest you put them in a hot dryer. You know, there's some specifics we put in the instructions of how to keep it durable. If you put it in a hot dryer, yeah, it's not going to last, but treat it correctly, 30 to 50 is no problem. You could get even more. The iColor Premium two-step paper can be up to 100 wash cycles. And then on the low end side, if you're looking at a one-step paper, so that's a product that you just print directly on the paper and transfer it directly to the garment. So that's for light or white or light colored shirts. We say it's 12 to 15 washes.
Yeah, and I always tell folks when you're doing that, that paper is going to be for someone who's like down and dirty cheap, like, okay, maybe a fun run shirt or a kid's birthday party or a bachelorette party, something where they don't care if they're going to wear it again. That's a good spot for that, but not something you're going to want to go to for longevity. And the key is, as Joe said, provide instructions. The problem is no one listens. But at least if you provide instructions, then that's on them when they're not washing it right. But provide the instructions. And again, a lot of it goes into your design too. Again, allowing that negative space and designing right, and allowing that so it wash and wears better, that's going to help too. So it makes a big difference. One of the things I want to touch on, again, diving more into the different papers. Again, on these things here, I'm going to come up close to the camera. I'm doing these bags that we sell on jpplus.com, or the pillowcase in a bag. Again, these are sublimatable items, but we've then gone ahead and just put a heat transfer on here, okay? So this is the same paper that you would use for your shirt that we've just used on this. And you'd follow the same steps and directions within the software as you would if you were doing a garment. But again, keep it in mind, you can do that. Bags, koozies, all those kinds of things. I showed this one earlier. I'm going to bring it back up again just so you guys can see it. This is another, just the garment paper on there too. Okay, well, let's talk about hard surface. Hard surface is really popular. When you're looking at options to do items that are, you know, a lot of our customers naturally have sublimation, and I'm sure many of on the webinar have sublimation today and are looking for options because I get all the time. I want to be able to do dark colors. I want to be able to do non-coated products and things like that. So this is just a basic dollar store mug per se. We probably got this at Walmart, but you can then put a transfer onto this and you've got a customizable item, okay? And this is just done with the iColor one-step premium paper. There is great options out there as far as hard surface paper. Joe, you want to talk on some of the options you have for hard surface?
Yeah, I mean, the one-step premium that you're using there is definitely the most popular. It's like a sort of a one-size-fits-all. But it may not be the best choice for specific applications. So if you know you're always going to do ceramic, there's a ceramic hard surface paper. If you know you're always going to do wood and leather, there's a wood and leather hard surface paper. But the one that Steve just showed you is the one that you start with. You can do everything with it. Acrylics and glass, metal, wood, any type of hard surface that can take heat, you can press to it.
And we even used one of the specialty papers, not that this is a hard surface, but on leather for a patch here on a hat. And the detail that you're able to get here with that then this is a part of our leatherettes line that we sell, and then we sewed that onto a hat, but that's done with heat transfer, okay? So, you know, things like that you're able to do. One of the other things that was hugely popular when we did a video, there's a video out on our website where we did the acrylic wedding invitations. This is a game changer. I'll hold it up against my shirt, maybe easier to see there. But this is just a cast acrylic that we heat transfer to the design. You do it in white. When you're, and again, invitation, what table placement. I mean, there's tons of different creative ways that you could use something like this. Oh, we just lost power. Oh, we're back. Okay. So there's tons of ways that you can use this and again, customizing it. So things like this are great. Now, again, with the hard surface items, it takes a little more practice. There's going to be some learning curve to it. You're going to want to test all these and figure out the right settings. Each of the papers come with directions and recommended time, temperature, and you just want to start with those directions and build from that. We also did this with our new glitter line. This is Color Hues, is that right?
Color Hues Glitter.
Color Hues Glitter. Okay, and we cut this on a laser. And again, here's another way we did it. This is part of our home decor line that we laser engraved the box. Again, you can, there's a gift for someone, everybody when they have a baby, they put the months and the years. And so this is a neat way to offer something else. So again, this is all done with the white toner heat transfer on here, okay?
Hey, Steve?
Yes.
We had a question real quick. Somebody wanted to see the Saddle Collection patch that you have on the hat there. And again, you can find the Saddle Collection on our website. Several different colors. That is a leather-like product, but they wanted to see that just a little closer in detail.
You can get really good detail on that. So as far as really fine detail, it comes out really well. Let's see, let's talk about, maybe we can do a demo. Joe, is there anything else you want to cover? Anything I've missed that you feel is pertinent?
No, I mean, in general, I would just say to folks out there who haven't even determined that they want to get a heat transfer printer, whether it's the 800 or other, something to understand is that heat transfer will let you do basically anything. There's really no limit to what you could do with a heat transfer printer, where if you're considering other technologies like direct to garment or even DTF or any of these new technologies that are out there, this is the one solution that will do anything. You can really print and press to anything. Plus you could print on regular papers. You could print on black papers and clear papers and banners and window clings and magnetic media and labels and stickers and there
is a ton of specialty papers that are able to be used in your iColor printers, and particularly the 800. So again, Joe brings a good point. It's the most versatile product out there as far as personalization and decorating, from hard surface to soft surface to like window clings and things like that. So let's jump into a demo. I know a lot of folks are probably curious to how that works. What I've done is I've printed this transfer. Again, this is a two-step iColor two-step standard paper, and with this it has a coated side, which is the side you print to, and then a glossy side. So one of the things that I love that iColor does is in each of the paper trays, it tells you which way you need to put the paper or the printing size of the paper, whether it's face down, face up. Again, it's those small things like that that make a difference as you're first learning how to do this. So again, this is the 12.5 by 19 sized paper. We did a big design. This is the two-step paper. What you do is you print to this, I call it this is, transparency style film here, and then you're going to press it to an opaque adhesive backer. This is going to be the glue that's going to have this stick to the shirt while you're going over that. So what I'll do here is I'm going to go over here. We're going to do a close-up shot, so bear with us if you lose me for a second. What we do here on this, I'm using a Stahl's Hotronix Fusion IQ. Let's talk about quality of heat press. You've invested, 9, 10,000 or more in your heat transfer and supplies to get started, and then you've got a $200 heat press off of Amazon. That may work okay for when you're doing your vinyl, but when you get into the toner-based heat transfer, you really need a quality heat press. We carry a full line of the Stahl's Hotronix lines. We carry the Geonite heat presses. Those are great. Also, the DK20S is a 16 by 20. The Stahl's, the Fusion IQ has a slide out drawer. It's a 16 by 20. So what's nice about this, you completely pull out the drawer, and I'm standing in front of the camera. I have the worst habit of that. You pull out the drawer and you're removing it from underneath the heat source, okay? So you can work on it. Also, threading the platen for the shirts you can do too. So it's really nice as far as that aspect. So I've got my transfer ready, my glue sheet ready. I'm going to take these silicone finishing sheets. This is what we include with ours. These are 11 by 17. You're going to use this to place over the transfer to protect the transfer and also the heat platen. When you're doing this, you're going to put your transfer image facing up and then your glue sheet over top of that. So your glue sheet's always going to be your top item there. I'm just going to cover this with the silicone sheets. Now, I was messing with this earlier, so I know I need to adjust my pressure a little bit, so I'm doing that. And then at 310 degrees, again, remember, when we're training you, we'll go over all that depending on the paper you're getting. But this one is 310 degrees for 120 seconds is what I'm using today on that. And again, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to start this. And we'll just go ahead and start. What's really nice is with the stalls, you can program your different settings for your eye color papers right in here so that you can just choose what you're using and then make that switch over. Any other questions? It'd be great filler for time.
Yeah, we've got a question here.
Okay.
Maybe, hang on 1 second.
All right. I keep forgetting that.
Well, and we're going to kind of answer this here, Steve.
Sure.
But the question was, like, how long does it take to make a shirt?
I think, you know, from your average start to finish is a little over 3 minutes or so. I mean, it doesn't take too long. You know, when in a production environment, you're going to want to do all your A to B presses, and then you're going to do all your A sheets pressed to your shirts on the cool, peel off the transfer and that. So there's different ways you can set up your production, but it's probably a little over 3 minutes or so from start to finish when you're producing a shirt. Joe, anything you want to add to the process or anything like that on the transfer papers?
No, I think we have it covered there. How much time we have left on that press?
55 seconds. One of the things I'm going to talk about is the T-seal sheet. We're going to finish this with the T-seal. You can finish it with the silicone, and each one will give it a different feel. But I really like the T-seal sheet from a longevity standpoint. We'll show you that. That's been getting quite a bit more popular. And I'm going to guess, Joe, it's probably because it's been circulating and talked about quite a bit in the user groups.
Yeah, no doubt. We definitely picked up on it, on its quality and features, and since then it's sort of exploded. Yeah.
Hey, Steve, we had another question. There's a lot of interest in that hat.
Oh, okay.
So if you could show that again, and just to let people know again, that's the Saddle Collection.
Saddle Collection.
And that was custom cut. So that was some of the sheet material that we have in the Saddle Collection. And that could be cut with a laser or a Cricut machine.
Yeah, I lied to you and told you it was pre-cut, so my fault.
Well, not the first time you've lied to
Okay,
us, Steve.
someone want to hold? I gotta feel this. Oh, sorry. All right, so this transfer, the two-step standard paper, this is a hot peel. You do not want to remove this from the platen. So you want to start with a corner, you can dog ear. You don't want to grab it and just rip. You want to do a nice, slow, steady, even peel. Yes, this is hot, but honestly, you get doing this enough, you get used to it. You want to keep this parallel. You don't want to lift up on it. You want to keep this transfer sheet hot, and you just want to peel. And I kind of just shift because I'm doing it backwards here. I'm just kind of moving this, but I'm keeping it as close to the platen that's still hot, it's still warm, because if it starts to cool, it's going to stick. This glue sheet's going to stick and it's going to rip and the transfer is going to come off. Just as you get to the end here with your lettering, I just let off and let it kind of roll off itself so I don't lose any detail, and voila, we're done. And this is how you know you got a good peel. You got no image on here. You can see the outline of the image that I did, but you don't see any of the color, okay? The color is left on the transfer. So I'll give that to you.
Steve, another question. I'll throw this at Joe. Actually, Joe, on the 800W, is that Wi-Fi compatible or is that Ethernet only?
So the screen, the touch screen is Wi-Fi capable. So that's to run the videos and that sort of thing. But as far as sending data, it's an option. So you could buy an optional Wi-Fi adapter to connect it to Wi-Fi. That said, we really don't suggest hooking these machines up with Wi-Fi because there's just a tremendous amount of data going back and forth. A hardwired TCP/IP connection is really the best solution.
Perfect. That always helps. I mean, I'm always telling folks, you need to hardwire these. You're going to get the best data transfer that you're going to have out of that. So that's ideal. Let me jump back to this. I want to show you guys real quick on here too before I press it. You're going to always want to take this and you're going to have to trim the edges because you're going to have the glue line. The glue line is from the B sheet is a little bit smaller than the transfer sheet, because if you take this and you press it now, you would get that line. So you don't need to get precise here. I'm just taking my scissors and I'm just running around the edges. Now, when you're new at this, I'm going to recommend you leave as much excess on here as possible, because you're going to have to get used to rolling your transfer off. And so by doing that, it helps you get started and you're not too close to your image or your lettering. So that just makes the most sense. I hope everybody can see what I'm doing here. And again, I'm not getting too like detailed here. I'm just, again, running to get that glue line off. And now I have a transfer that's been trimmed, and this is ready to press. Now, the beautiful thing about this too is, let's say you're getting ready for an event where you're going to be going on site, and you don't know how many of those shirts you're going to sell. Let's say, last year you sold 20 or 30 of those shirts, but you want to have the transfers ready. You can take these and do them up ahead of time, and then have them ready to press. Just put them in a file folder or something like that. So that they're ready to go, and then you can just grab your shirts and then press them if you're doing something on site. I get a lot of customers asking me about stuff like this, and I wouldn't say these have a life, and Joe, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the biggest thing is keeping them in a climate and humidity controlled environment is really the key. But they will last a while. Anything, Joe, that I lied about there?
No, definitely you want to keep that in a climate controlled environment. I will make one note that all the iColor paper now ships with a heavy duty Ziploc bag. So once you cut that package open, you can put it in that Ziploc bag. And there's also a desiccant packet in every box that you'll put in that plastic bag to keep the moisture out, because humidity is definitely the killer of transfer paper. So
Yeah,
keep it in a climate controlled condition and sealed.
Humidity can wreak havoc on really many different types of printing, and it's also, I recommend too, depending on where you have your printer, make sure you're getting yourself a humidity and temperature gauge and keeping a very close eye on that. It makes a big difference, and sometimes that can make the difference in, hey, you got to bring in a dehumidifier, or maybe you need a humidifier. It just depends on your climate. So now I'm going to talk to you about where we press to the shirt here. I'm not threading the platen. I'm just laying the shirt over top of it. I'm going to give this a pre-press. I like doing this, and Joe, you can say if it's recommended or not, but I always like giving these a good roll with a lint roller to get off all that excess lint. I think it helps.
Great idea.
So I will just take a lint roller and I'll go over that.
And it doesn't hurt to pre-press it either, to drive that moisture out of the shirt.
Yes, that is something I'm going to do here, and I recommend doing all the time, because you'd be shocked how much moisture these shirts are holding. This shirt I'm using here is just 100% heavy duty cotton, Fruit of the Loom, black t-shirt, pretty standard as far as that goes. I always accumulate too much stuff as I'm trying to do these webinars. It's always getting in my way. So let's move some of my stuff. And again, I'm not going to go crazy down on it. I'm just going to come rest it on there and let it press in there and get some of that moisture out. I'm going to take this opportunity to adjust some of my pressure here, since it's different because I've added the shirt to the platen versus just the transfer. George, question?
So we did have a question, and maybe we can have Joe address this while you're doing the press here. But we did have a customer ask, can you compare the 800W to the Oki 8432?
I can.
Awesome.
I can do that. I had a slide, but that's okay. We can verbally go through it. So, okay, so main difference. We're about $1,000 more expensive than the 8432. That has a new price in the USA of $79.99. This machine in a desktop version is $89.99. I think Steve mentioned they're mainly carrying now the Pro versions with the cart, but I'm sure it could be special ordered in a desktop version as well.
Absolutely.
So for $1,000 more than that Oki, here's what you get. You get the larger printing size. So instead of printing just the tabloid size or 11 by 17, you can go up to 12.6 by 19-inch media on your 800W. So that's one major benefit. You could do the quadruple extra large shirts, big shirts. Second, 8432 is only 600 DPI. That machine is roughly 8 years old, the engine, okay, that it starts from. That's a 600 DPI machine. The 800W is 1200 DPI, so double the print resolution, gives you much sharper printing. It's way faster and got more memory. I mean, the processor is light years faster in this machine. It comes included with 3 times more toner. So that machine, 8432, has a 4,000 page white cartridge in the box. This one has 12,500 pages in the box. And then, of course, the replacement cartridges we talked about are much larger. So even the starter size in the 800 is 3 times the size as what you get on that 8432 for white toner. And we know the white toner is the toner that costs the most money. Printing costs are 50% lower, the running costs, because the toner is, like I said, such high yield at a low cost. You're printing a lot more for your money. It's 24 cents cost per page on the 800W versus 82 cents on the Oki. So quite a big difference. ProRip software is included. On the Oki, it's separate, although now I think lately they're packaging it, 2 different packages, but now we're included. This is in one box. You got the 10-inch color touchscreen. You have Wi-Fi optional that you don't have on the Oki, and you have a 50% wider color gamut. So the colors on this machine, are far, far better than what you can get on an 8432. It's not even close. It's a lot more machine for $1,000 more.
Yeah, I mean, you're taking a big step up here. I mean, the 800 is such a workhorse, and then you're getting the output size and so many of those great benefits Joe talked about. And for the little price difference, I mean, it's a value. I've always thought that the iColor, the Uninet line of printers, when you look at the competition, has always had a superior value, and you don't compromise on quality at all. It's great product. Okay, so I'm going to go back to this, show you the transfer. So I've trimmed this up. Okay, I've got this ready to press. I've put this on my shirt. I've pre-pressed the shirt, ran the lint roller. Again, using these silicone finishing sheets. I'm going to put this over top of it. Now our second press here to the shirt is only 30 seconds, okay? I'm going to do this at a medium heavy pressure. Make sure I've got that dialed in here. Yep, so I've got that here, and again, 30 seconds to the shirt. Again, all these settings are on the instructions when you get your paper. Each of these are broken down in there. I know it's a lot to remember, but the book that you can get with the printer where you write all that down, I highly recommend you do that so that, these settings are guidelines, and you might find something like that for you is slightly different. So make sure you note that. So 5 seconds left here in this, and then I'm going to take this out. Okay, now when you take this out, you want to be a little more gentle with this. I'm going to move some stuff out of the way that I meant to over there. You're going to want to allow this to cool, because right now the glue is not set up yet, and you don't want it to move. And so you would set these aside and just let them cool. So I'm going to take this, again, sorry I'm in front of the camera, and I'm going to sit this over here. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to speed up the process. I'm going to use this lovely example of hard surface here to fan this. And again, a good surface like this, a cooler surface will allow, if you're in a hurry, you can do things like customers use ice packs. I mean, lots of creative ways that you can do this. You have a fan blowing on it, but I'm just going to fan this really quick to get it cool so we can show you the peeling process. This, when folks get started in this, everybody says, where's the learning curve? Your biggest learning curve is going to be from your A to B peel, which I just did on the heat press. And then also, I feel like there's a learning curve for folks when they're first doing the peel off the shirt. Joe, do you have any tips or tricks you want to add to that?
Yeah, I would just say, don't rush it. In this case, of course, we're doing a demonstration, so Steve's fanning it. But normally you would put it aside. Yep. Just even for 3 or 4 or 5 minutes is sufficient. In any assembly line situation, it will dry very quickly or cool very quickly. Some people use a sheet of metal if you have to do it right away. In my lab, I have a piece of granite that I put my shirts on, and the granite sucks the heat right out. Again, that's only if you want to peel it immediately. If you're not impatient, you could wait 3 or 4 minutes. It will cool on its own.
And if you want, I don't know if you can slide in closer here to this or for the peel. Do you think you can move it enough or no? We're gonna try something on the fly. Maybe not. We'll see. I thought maybe we could get in close to see the peel, but you guys can see, I think, close enough. Let me see if we'll adjust the cameras here. Caitlin hates being on camera, and I just made her come up here, so. So she shares yours up there? There we go.
Yeah, that works.
So I'm gonna rotate this here so I can see what I'm doing. Okay, that's a good shot. All right, perfect. So basically what I wanna do here is I'm gonna start taking this and I'm just gonna start rolling it off. Again, still a little warm, but I don't want to take it and just yank it. That's the worst thing you can do. I've seen that in some videos, in my opinion. And then I just start rolling this off. I keep the shirt tight here with my other hand, and I just start rolling it off. And you want to try to keep this as tight as possible as you're rolling it off. And that helps it from ripping it up. Now, sometimes if you start to see an area that starts to peel, I've done this. I'll stop and I'll go repress it again and come back, let it cool and let it peel. I'm not having that right now, but that's something that you can do. So I'm just gonna take this, almost done, and just roll it right off. And by the time I got to the end, there was no resistance there because it had really cooled. And then I have here one finished complete transfer with no left on toner. And then I've got the image on the shirt. Now there is a final step here we have to do, which I call is the fixing step. Question?
No, we're just syncing cameras here, Steve.
Oh, okay, sorry.
It's a professional show we're running here.
All right, so we're gonna do the final press here to the shirt for 30 seconds. I'm gonna give the opportunity for Caitlin to back up here, and then I'll go to the press again. Smooth operation we got running here. So I'm gonna put this on the press. I'm gonna come around this side so my fat head isn't in the shot. All right, so we'll pull this over. Okay. Again, I have this on my heat press. And again, you could use the silicone finishing sheets. Joe, you want to talk about the T-seal sheet?
Yeah. So a couple different choices to do your finishing step or fixing step. You can use a craft paper as long as it's siliconized. It's important it is siliconized, otherwise that toner will stick to it. You don't want to just use, regular parchment paper that you could buy in the store. It's got to have that silicone treatment. And that's perfectly fine. That'll take the shine off and really seal it in. You could alternatively use a glossy finishing sheet if you want a shiny finish. And then the third option is what Steve mentioned, is the T-seal. That's what he's holding there. The T-seal, that could be used, hundreds of times. And what that does is really push that transfer deep into the fibers of the shirt to make it extremely durable. You could actually see the fibers of the shirt through the T-seal when he's finished there. Really showing that the transfer is in and around all the fibers. So it makes it extremely durable in the wash.
It's great. I love this. Go ahead.
Yeah, we have a question. Somebody wanted to know what the typical cost is. I know it depends on how much the shirt itself costs, but typical cost on making a transfer like we're doing today.
Sure, Joe. You want to give them an estimate on like one of these 12.5 by 19 size with that size design?
Yeah, so a sheet of paper that size is in the $4 range roughly for the paper, right? Because we say A4 paper is roughly $2. This is roughly $4, maybe $4.20 in that range.
Right.
And then, the toner cost is quite low. It's for that size and that much toner he used, I'll estimate it's in the 30 cents, 25 or 30 cents, something like that for toner. And then of course, the shirt. A black shirt today is what, around $240, $250?
Yeah.
So that's your cost. And that's a shirt that you should be able to sell $25 to $30 because it's a one-off. This isn't the business of selling 50 shirts to the church soccer league. This is 1, 2, 3 shirts in small runs at high profit. It's a different market than screen printing.
Yeah, I always tell people too, and Joe, I don't know your thoughts on this. I said, you don't want to take this process and try to go compete against a screen printer on one color, 1,000 shirts. That's not the place for this. Now, you could go grab their business that they don't want to do short runs, and someone comes back and needs 5 shirts of something they did, and they no longer have that screen. I mean, those are the type of opportunities that you have to make that margin. So it's a great opportunity there.
Yep.
We had a question from someone. You're talking about the silicone finishing sheets. Could you use Teflon?
You probably could, but I wouldn't use Teflon. I think the Teflon leaves too much of and it would probably stick, honestly.
It'll stick.
Yeah, it'll stick. And then wouldn't like the finish that would give anyway. So it's going to stick and you're not going to like the finish. So you really need to stick to something that's silicone coated or like the T-seal sheet. And you'll know right away if you're using the wrong thing because it'll stick and your transfer will be ruined. So let's go ahead and press this, okay? So I've got this on there. I've got the T-seal sheet on there. I'm not using a silicone sheet over that because that's what the T-seal sheet's for. I'm gonna give this a 30-second press. I'm gonna crank up my pressure a little bit more on there, get a little higher pressure on there, and I'm gonna come down on it. Again, 30 seconds here, and this is crucial. Do not forget to do this final fixing step, okay? That's gonna give you the highest durability, and like Joe said, really mesh the transfer into the fibers of the shirt.
Steve-O, question. Can you reuse the T-seal sheets?
Over and over. I think the number that I've seen it rated for is between 300 and 500. So it's a lot. You're gonna get your money's worth out of it. I think 11 by 17 sheet is around $66. All right, so then you'll take this, I just grab it and I don't yank it off. I just do a nice slow peel on it. I love how it looks. All right. Now I've got one finished shirt. Oh, we got to switch cameras, see? Okay, all right.
Use all the cameras. Turn them all on.
All right, so here you go. Here's your finished shirt. Again, this is the kind of artwork you want to do. Nice amount of negative space. Let me back up. And again, this was extra large shirt done on the maximized on the 12.5 by 19 inch sheet, okay? So when you want to do big, full color design, self-weeding, especially in garments, this is the way to go. And then again, all the other benefit of the hard surface capabilities too. All right, so any other questions? It takes us to almost to an hour. We got anything else, anybody?
I think we're good. No more
Okay,
questions.
Joe, any last minute things you want to add?
No, I thank everyone for their time. I think we talked about everyone will get a copy of this book today, right, George?
That is correct. We'll get everybody who attended today. So if you're on the webinar, we've got your information. We'll make sure you get a copy of that book. Give us a few weeks. We got a holiday coming in, but we'll get it out to you.
Yes, yes. And if you have questions, feel free to reach out to me. My contact information is right on the website too, or just call into customer service, ask for Steve. Be glad to answer any of your questions that you might have. For those of you maybe joining later, just starting, you can watch this back on recording. Joe, thank you as always very much for joining us and answering all these questions, and have yourself a great Thursday.
My pleasure. Take care, everyone.
All right, take care. Thanks. Bye-bye.